cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off in the fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
Hello, everybody. It's Jay with Guilty of Crime. And today we're talking about Scott Peterson and a new trial date. If everybody saw my thumbnail, they'll know if there's a new trial date. If you read deeper into it, you'll actually know what the dates are for the hearings. I'm going to give you all of that information, and then you'll know what's happening. I'm going to catch you all up. If you go back, hello, Jackie. Hey, Carly. And I hope others start to come in here. Now, I have the breakdown of everything that's been going on since the new stuff actually started happening in 2020. So there was nothing going on at all with Scott Peterson. I'm going to come on here and just bring up some of the pictures so you can see this again. I did probably a 2-hour live last time. And when I did that, let me see what happened here. I got to a different page. We don't want to see that. Let's open it back up and show you. So when I did the other one, I gave you the story, and you had all that fun stuff. Now we're talking about what's happened since then. So let me just give you a quick breakdown. We're talking about Scott Peterson and what's his new trial date. Yesterday when we were talking, we had Sadie's mama on here, and she said it in the comments that he has a new trial date. So I did a lot of digging so I can get my years and facts straight, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get all that straight, figure out what's happened since 2020 up until 2024, and watch the new hearing, break it down, what it's about, get your opinions in. And this doesn't happen all the time, everybody. Things like things that are happening in this case doesn't happen. You could be in jail for 20 years, like he has been. He's been in there since 2005, and you're just stuck in prison. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he got off or he got out of death row. But do you even know why he got out and off of death row? I didn't even know why. So I knew all about the case. I lived in Modesto when this happened. It made national news. He was convicted, right? We all know Scott Peterson as the convicted murderer of Laci, and don't forget Connor Peterson. She was pregnant, and when they found the body of her and the baby washed up at the shore in the San Francisco Bay, where he was going back and forth. That's how they tracked the area. They didn't have cell phones at the time. They had cell phones, but they didn't have the tracking system. And I appreciate that, Carly. Yes, I am fan funded, and I'd love to go out and take a trip out there and show you what part of the bay that the body washed up. The day that he went, he took a trip and he took out the boat. First, he said he went golfing. Then he said he went fishing. Yet nobody knew that he even had a boat because he kept it in storage. So many things came out in the trial that it's mind-blowing that this LA Innocence Project, which has nothing to do with the Innocence Project, by the way, it's a totally different one. It's the Los Angeles Innocence Project. Nothing to do with it. Has been fighting for this man since 2020. So let me do this. I just wanted you to see the pictures. I want to go over my quick Scott Peterson new trial date. Now, Scott Peterson was convicted for the murder of his wife, Laci Peterson, and their unborn son, Connor, in 2004. The case gained significant media attention. Peterson was arrested after inconsistencies in his alibi, and behavior raised suspicion. The key evidence included, listen to this, so then you know what the new evidence I'm going to give you, and the two reasons why he got off death row, and the second reason why they're going for a new trial. Do they have a new trial date yet? I'll let you know. All right. So the key evidence included Peterson's affair. That was a huge one. You see that lady right there with the blonde hair? There's almost more pictures of her than Laci. So his affair following Laci's disappearance and the fact that he was fishing in the area where Laci's body was found. Additionally, the forensic evidence such as hair and cement residue that was linked to the crime scene. The prosecution argued that Peterson killed his wife to pursue the relationship with the mistress. Now, everybody knows this mistress. She came forward right away. And that was, I think most people are saying, and the people that are backing him are saying that he was convicted solely on his affair. So ultimately, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder for Laci's death and second degree for Connor's death, leading to his conviction and subsequent life without parole now, but he had the death penalty. Now, let's go over the next part of it. I'm glad, Sadie's mama, that you're here because I wanted to do this today. I moved my Ed Kemper out because I wanted to find out if he has a trial date. I have all the dates for you and everybody else. So, what happened? Why did he get off death row? So, for the Los Angeles Innocence Project picked up this case and they took a real interest. They filed a motion for DNA testing, and that's why we have this van here to potentially clear Peterson. The motion specifically focuses, if you can see my mouse, on this van right here. This burnt out van is what they are focusing it on. Now, this van was involved in a burglary around the time of her murder. So the burglary van was there, and there was people in the neighborhood that there was so many inconsistent statements that there was reasonable doubt in the LA Project's mind. And so they picked up the case. Now, what they came up with first was one of the jurors. And you're going to see that while I'm doing this. One of the jurors, and somebody else knows her name. I forget for the life of me. She's a lady with the pink hair, and she'll always be known as the lady with the pink hair. I don't know if her name is Strawberry or some weird nickname. One of the jurors didn't fill out the paperwork right, or they didn't understand it, and they signed it. So that's what got him off death row. I thought it was a California thing at first because I wasn't paying much attention to the case. I thought he was okay. All right. As long as you can hear me, everybody, we're good. So it's not a done deal. Now, watch this. Take a look at this van. Okay, it says I'm muted. And I'm definitely not muted. So it's my headphones. I'm not muted. That's really weird. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm going to go with the volume back up. Yeah, I shouldn't be muted at all. Let me know if I am, because no, it says I'm here. Can you hear me? Okay, well, yeah, my headphones went off for like 2 seconds. Good. Weird things happen. Okay. So, first things first. You see the van there, and that was the whole deal. But before that, he got off death row because of that little cross the T's, dot the I's that a lot of people don't seem to like. And they don't like that, I think, because they want to go to trial right away, right? They want things to move forward. So in 2020, I'm giving you specific dates. We have to be very specific here because this is what counts. These little things right now are what counts in this case. And if you don't know about them, then you're not going to really truly understand the case. Strawberry shortcake. I'm going to put this up here. That was the juror that initially came out. She was the first one to talk. Everybody was interested in her back then. Apparently, it was a big deal. Well, it was in Modesto. She was a different looking person, we'll say. Rochelle, nice dubbed strawberry shortcake. So, Let me tell you the fact, because you got to listen to the details to understand this and why this is even happening. This isn't really a gotcha. He's getting off. I gotcha. There's a whole bunch of facets to it. So in 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned Peterson's death sentence, citing improper dismissal of potential jurors who agreed with the death penalty but were willing to follow the law. That's why, just because they were willing to follow the law. As a result, Peterson's sentencing was changed and they transferred him from San Quentin to San Mateo County Jail. So those recent developments got the Los Angeles Innocent Project thinking. There's DNA now. We can do testing. The whole time we used that van and they did. If you saw the trial, they used that van as there was burglars in the area and somebody saw her walking the dog after. But once they found out about him and his mistress, game seemed to be over. So what they say, here's what they filed, and then we'll hear. The motion now specifically focuses on DNA testing on the van near the Petersons' home. So now we're back in court. This was the hearing that got him back into the court. Was that little bit of evidence that couldn't be DNA tested back then. Yes, Crumbly guilty. Thank you, Sadie's mama. I can interrupt for that. I knew that was going to happen with the mom. What was it? 3 days for Jennifer Crumbly. Sorry to interrupt everybody, but yeah, breaking news, everybody. I'm going to put that up here so that we know on 3/1/4/24, which is Pi Day today, Nerd Day. I'm a nerd. I'm a COO of a mechanical engineering company, and 3/1/4 is a big day for us because we're all a bunch of nerds. I might as well be a mechanical engineer. I've been there 16 years, and yeah, mechanical engineering is heavily into math. So it's Pi Day, and Crumbly was found guilty. Thank you. Back to the case. All right. So they got on this DNA thing, and the LA Innocence Project was backing him. If people don't know what the LA Innocence Project is, I'm just going to tell you real quick. They call it LAIP. It's an organization dedicated to exonerating the wrongfully convicted, freeing unjustly incarcerated, and reforming the criminal legal system to prevent further injustice. Some of the key points of their mission statement is to exonerate individuals, free wrongfully, uncover and address the minutia of forensic and scientific evidence in courtrooms that weren't done, couldn't be done, whatever it might be, and improve the standards for using such evidence in legal proceedings moving forward. And they also want to reform the criminal legal system. I'm totally backing them with what they do. I'm all about the LA Innocence Project for people that got wrongfully accused. This man, I do not feel like he was wrongfully accused. I'm giving my opinion now. He's guilty, and I'm going to believe that until they say it again, hopefully. But that's not the case right now, everybody. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So let me tell you what the case is. Let's start this. Now that I gave you a 15-minute backstory, and we know that Crumbly is guilty, everybody. School shooter Crumbly, Jennifer Crumbly, dad, I don't even know his name right now, but dad, Jason Crumbly's dad, or maybe his name is Jason, the school shooter Crumbly found guilty. Hello, Art of Deduction, True Crime. Good to see you here. We're just about to get into the video of what brought us back here as I finished my explanation. So let's watch this for a minute, and I will show you what got us back here in more legal terms, and you get to see pictures of him instead of my face. All right, here we go.
This morning, convicted killer Scott Peterson set to appear virtually in court as He makes yet another attempt to get his case retried weeks after the Laci Innocence Project. They represent the now 51-year-old. Peterson is currently serving a life sentence without parole for the 2002 murders of his pregnant wife Laci and their unborn child. At the time, Modesto police said Peterson dumped them from his fishing boat into the San Francisco Bay, where months later their bodies washed up. But the LA Innocence Project is now pointing to a different theory, arguing Laci may have been killed by burglars who into the home across the street from the Petersons. Journalist Mike Gudgel has spent years looking into lingering questions he also has about the speaking.
But when did you begin to think that they really made a big mistake in this case?
You know, it wasn't really Scott. It was you're looking into all the tips. It all ultimately came down to the burglary across the street.
A burned out orange van containing a set found in Modesto the morning after Laci disappeared. The LA Innocence Project wants to do testing on a sample of that mattress that's believed to be in police custody to determine if there's any of Laci's DNA. To this day, former Modesto fire investigator Brian Spatolsky, who responded to that van fire, questions why that didn't happen during the trial.
I had figured when the court started, when the trial all started up, that somebody would reach out to me.
A former lead investigator in the original case, John Bueller.
So everybody, this is what they're hindering. This whole case is hindering on that burnt out van and a piece of evidence. One piece of evidence. I think they might have another. I saw like a trash bag or something like that. But right now we're going to watch that after this and you'll see for yourself. So yeah, this is what they're going on. And the tips, like I said, that was the only reasonable doubt they had in the whole trial. If you watched it back then and knew about it, that was the only thing they had.
Tells us he never even knew about it.
You're saying that when the Innocence Project came out, that was the first you had ever learned about. This orange van.
Sorry,
yeah,
everybody.
I never heard about it before that. I'm
Internet.
just confused that it never came to light.
Still, he stands by the conviction.
I'm completely confident that we got, and as far as any evidence that comes forward, test it. Let's see where it leads.
And remember, just some of the circumstantial evidence against Scott Peterson includes lying about a mistress going fishing on Christmas Eve alone, the day Laci disappeared, buying that fishing gear just weeks before, and then investigators say his odd behavior after she disappeared, including dyeing thousands of dollars in cash. Now, Scott Peterson's family is expected to be here in court today to support him. As for Laci's family, they have said nothing since the LA Innocence Project took on this case. Savannah.
All right, Liz Coitz at the courthouse in Redwood City. Thanks. We're joined now by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, this is a very, very difficult road, but the LA Innocence Project has a lot of proficiency in these kinds of cases. So what is today about, and what is the likelihood of success?
Here's what today is not about. This is not a hearing where Scott Peterson
This is
can walk
good.
free or even get a new trial. The only
There you go.
thing his motion seeks is testing of old DNA evidence. DNA evidence, in fact, that was tested already.
You heard it from him, but we're still going to dig deeper. Okay. Because it could, we don't know, but they're hanging on a string. He said it, and I'm not going to rewind it because right now I'm having, for some reason, the internet, it may be StreamYard, but let's keep watching. I got a lot to tell you and to show you.
Already back in 2019. So that makes it an even higher burden for Scott Peterson. He has to show that, hey, there's this DNA evidence and it was tested, but the way it was tested wasn't good enough. We have means of doing it now that is better, and it might lead to the identity of another bad guy who did this instead of me. That's quite a number of obstacles that Peterson has. So today is just a status hearing to see how this goes forward procedurally.
There was a burglary that nearby at around the same time that they said happened on one date and later found out it happened on another date. So how are these circumstances?
Yeah. The thing is that they did bring that in. And it's funny that one of the investigators was saying that they didn't know about it. Why is this the first I'm hearing about it? Because actually they did know about it, and they were right when they said they tested. It's just different now. So first he got off of death row because of someone didn't dot the I's and cross the T's and understand. And then now he's hanging on this. So I don't know what the likelihood is, but you guys are going to be interested in actually seeing him now and seeing how happy he actually is. It's weird.
It's playing in Scott Peterson's favor.
The defense's theory has been for a long time that there was a burglary almost across the street from his house around the same time. And even that is contested because, as the state would say, if that burglary happened 2 days after Laci Peterson disappeared and everyone was already looking for her, then it's impossible that it had anything to do with her disappearance. So timing is key here. But there are at least 2 burglars that were involved with that. And you have a violent crime, which is a home invasion happening across the street. It's certainly a viable theory that they might have, maybe Laci came upon the burglary and they took her at least to quiet her, and then bad things happened to her. But in terms of newly discovered evidence, that's not really newly discovered. This has been known, as you mentioned, for decades. So it wouldn't necessarily meet that standard of newly discovered evidence because it really isn't new.
Really quickly, getting the distinction between the LA Innocence Project and the Innocence Project that we've all pretty much.
I don't think that we need to know that. So I'm going to stop sharing this, especially because it's the news and I think it was on TV. I don't want to get it pulled down for this, but there's a distinction and it doesn't matter. They don't go together. And the LA Innocence Project is Los Angeles specifically, and the case is in California. So I'll explain that to you. They're not affiliated. I don't care why at this point. Honestly, I think they're wasting our taxpayers' money on this, but it is interesting to see because crazier things have happened, everybody. Crazier things have happened than somebody being on death row and then going from off of death row to some juror 20 years or 15 years at the time later saying they didn't understand the form. How much drugs did they do in between them? How much alcohol did they drink? How many kids did they have? How many people, whatever. How many divorces did they go through? Who knows what happened in between then and 15 years later for them to say they didn't understand it. So that doesn't weigh that is like whatever. He's off a death row, but now they're wasting my money. I'm in California and I pay heavy taxes. So I don't really want to waste money like that. I'm going to show you the next hearings that are coming up, and I want to just share this quickly with you so you can see for yourself. It's just a little Word document thing. And let me see if I can zoom in on this so you can see what's next. See if you can see this here. Let me go closer. I just want to be specific with you so you know that we do have stuff coming up. It's on the schedule, everybody. Let me make it a little bit. If anybody cares about it and you guys really want to see this, and we're going to follow the case, then there you go. There is not a trial date set. The trial date is going to hinder upon the evidence. So we're going to watch the first one. I've got some things to show you in between. Talk about that. We've got the hearing on a motion to seal, and that's in April 16, 2024. Then we're going to do the hearing on the DNA testing motion, and that's May 29th, 2024. And then the motion for discovery, July 15th, 2024. So he's going to be back in court. This one, he's on Zoom, but he seems oddly happy. And it's probably because he's just on TV and he does have a lot of women messaging him and sending them things and telling him how gorgeous he is and handsome and all that. So he has a notoriety and women love him. They loved him when he was out. He had Amber Fry wrapped, but luckily she went and testified against him. So he wasn't that wrapped. And I just wanted to say I hadn't seen Art of Deduction before. So hello to you. And also Jackie, I think they said hello earlier. All right, I'm going to take that off. I wanted everybody to know those are the next dates coming up. If you care about that kind of thing and you want to see if he's going to get a new date, a lot of people, I live in California, so a lot of people are really into this thing. And I would love to go there and film some of this stuff. How about you guys? It's not far from me. Yeah, that's okay. We're we just kind of started Juror 13. Good to see you. So these are the next hearings. We're gonna play the one now and go over some stuff, the one that just happened, what's happening today. I want you to see Scott Peterson at 51, 20 years later than what he looked like before, and how he acts, what they talk about. And yeah, now you have the dates. There's not a trial date. The trial date is going to depend on all of these motions. And a lot of people get confused about what hearings are and what a motion to seal and testing motion and motion for discovery and all of that. We're not lawyers, but we can figure it out together, everybody. That's what I'm here for. So we're going to take this off and we're going to go to the next video I have ready for you. Now, they did say that they have the family in court. So that is going to be, I did not watch the whole thing by myself. So I'm going to watch it with you. I watched parts of it. And after I go through this stuff, then I will watch it. And whoever wants to watch it with me can. All right, let's do this one. And you can see kind of a recap. So if anybody wants to drop off, if whoever wants to drop off or something, then you don't have to sit there. You can get the full picture. Also, keep in mind that I timestamp my stuff, so you can fast forward through the intro if you want. You can go to different clips, whatever you want. It's your channel. It's mine, but it's yours. So here we go. Check this out. Here you are, Juror 13. We're just starting.
Good morning, Mr. Peterson. Can you both see and hear the proceedings, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, I can. Thank you.
All right. And do we have your consent to proceed via Zoom this morning?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. So the record should reflect Mr. Peterson has consented to appearing via Zoom. He is appearing electronically.
He has a ponytail.
State prison. Okay. The court had requested counsel to be present.
You see the ponytail? He's Mr. Cool Guy now. He went from blonde hair to a ponytail, and he oddly smiles a lot. We're going to play the actual hearing after we get through this, and you can sit there with me if you like and listen to it and fall asleep or whatever you want.
This morning for a status conference. There are 3 motions pending before the court. Motion for post-conviction discovery under Penal Code Section 1054.9. A motion for post-conviction DNA testing, and a motion to seal court pleadings that have been filed in relation to those 2 motions. Because we had not yet had a hearing date set, the people's response had not yet been due, so I wanted to discuss with counsel a briefing schedule and scheduling a substantive hearing on those 3 motions. I also wanted there were references in the pleadings to potential meet and confer process between the parties to see if they had any luck in narrowing the issues that the court may have to decide in terms of discovery and testing. So I wanted to check in with counsel, see where we are with that process, and then we'll move forward from there. So let me start with the moving party. Counsel for Mr. Peterson.
Yes, Your Honor. We did go to the district attorney.
This is not the full hearing. I'm just showing you clips of it in the beginning. We'll fast forward to this part when I get to the end of this, and then we'll actually, am I playing the full here? Let me check it out, because this might be streaming from there. It actually is. So I'm going to come back to this one, and we're going to watch this in a minute. You got to see his mug. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and show you a couple other things before we move too far ahead. Okay, so we'll watch that one at the end. And what I wanted to show you is I wanted to go back a little bit so you can see the actual sister-in-law. Now, this sister-in-law has been gunning for him the whole time. When I say that, she went and got her law degree to be able to understand what's going on. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to show you when he got moved off of death row, since we talked about that. And then we'll fast forward. We'll get back to that, and you guys can sit there and watch with me. All right. Let's watch this one when he got off death row. It's not very long. It's really quickly, but I want you to see it and see how he has progressively changed his look over the year. And now he's 51.
Peterson is no longer on death row. He's been moved from San Quentin to Mule Creek State Prison in Ione. Keep in mind, his death sentence for killing his pregnant wife, Laci, and unborn child was overturned. A state judge is now considering if Peterson deserves a new trial after claims a juror may have had bias in the case.
Okay, so we're done with that. That's out. No, we're not. We're done. I don't know why my internet's spotty today, everybody. I'm sorry about that, but I'm gonna hardwire it this weekend. And yeah, so you saw how much different he looked. We went forward and then went backward, and then we'll go to the hearing at the end. I'm gonna show his sister a year ago. It's not even his real sister. Well, I shouldn't say that because blood is not necessarily family. My family are my friends, but Scott Peterson's sister-in-law has been his cheerleader the entire time, and I want to show you what she says. Oh, 1 second, and I will get to that. This lady, I don't know if she has a boner for Scott Peterson, but I think she does, because I literally think she has a lady boner, and it's his sister-in-law. It's really weird. Check it out. Listen to what she says about the last hearing a year ago. Oh.
As Cliff ended with, she did not take her oath lightly. She did not take her oath lightly when she signed her jury questionnaire under penalty of perjury. As Dave Harris said, she wasn't really good at filling out forms, and almost every form that was admitted into evidence that was signed under penalty of perjury had wrong information on it. And this was a capital murder case, and her questionnaire was signed under penalty of perjury, and the Constitution guarantees a criminal defendant an impartial jury. And Scott did not have an impartial jury. He did not have a fair trial, and it's time for him to be granted a new trial.
Oh yeah, she'll do anything to get her brother-in-law out. She has been, I don't know, maybe she wants to be on TV.
I believe in this evidentiary hearing there was at least 4, maybe 5 documents that were admitted as exhibits that were signed by Juror 7 under penalty of perjury for different circumstances, but were submitted to the court for various reasons, and they all contradict each other.
This is why he got off death row, everybody.
What's the point of having somebody sign something under penalty of perjury if you're not going to be truthful? If you need clarification, you need to ask for clarification. And some of this, as Cliff stated, it's narrative form. So it's her own words in one form.
Well,
directly
she's a lawyer now. She became a lawyer because of him. It's so hard to hear. Sorry.
That's one of the things that Cliff talked about too. When Mark was trusting that the questionnaire was filled out properly. We had my brother-in-law's convicted
My brother.
9%, and Rochelle Neese was a victim of domestic violence while she was pregnant, and also a victim where she filed for a restraining order while pregnant. And that's information that should have been disclosed on her jury questionnaire.
After listening to the judge's questions, did that give you any insight into which way she might be leaning in this case?
Not at all. I think we have a very thorough judge, and I think that's a good thing. Scott is hopeful, as are we as a family. This has been a very long road. This is actually just the very beginning.
All right. I don't want to hear you anymore. I'm done listening to you. I can't barely hear you. And that news station sucked. I couldn't hear them. But I wanted to show you the sister, and it's a sister-in-law, and she has been the entire time in the public eye for Scott Peterson. So where we are, anybody that just came in right now, we're talking about Scott Peterson and is he going to get a new trial? We don't even have the answer today, because as of right now, he's been taken off a death row on a technicality is what I'm going to call it. And then he is looking to get a new trial based on some DNA evidence of a burnt out van. So now we come to Vinny and some experts talking about it. Hopefully it doesn't get too spotty here. And then we're going to watch the hearing. You can watch it with me, or I'll just watch it by myself. Hope I watch it with you all. This one isn't very long actually, and most of it's about Karen Reed, if anyone knows. I'm not gonna put that on, but let's find the anybody know about the Karen Reed case at all? Okay. So if anybody doesn't know about the Karen Reed case, you should know about it. Look it up. I will I'll cover that.
Known for 4 months which specific items of discovery we are requesting. We gave them references to Bates pages. We gave them references to where in the police reports the items we're requesting are referred to. We were very, very specific. We spent a lot of time trying to suss out what frankly are very alarming deficiencies in the discovery that was provided to the defense trial. Those are the items we're requesting. I agree it should not take 180 days for them to locate those items and provide them to us. The defense was entitled to those at the time of trial. Mr. Peterson has been waiting 20 years to find some of these police reports and audio recordings and video recordings that should have been provided.
The LA Innocence Project, now representing convicted double murderer Scott Peterson. There he was appearing via Zoom today. I don't know what he's doing with his eyes.
Doesn't he look crazy?
Look at his hair.
Is he?
Slick back, and if you can almost see, he's got a ponytail, folks. He's got a ponytail. He's sporting, he's off death back in Gen Pop. So I guess that's what all the kids in Gen Pop are doing now with the ponytails. I mean, it's been 20 years. He should be out playing golf with his son, Connor. But he's not, because
I love Vinnie Politan, and that's right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been 20 years, and Connor would already be like almost 20 years old because he was they considered him to be a full-born baby, and they charged him with that. So Vinny's got a strong opinion. It's not very long, and if you're just coming in now, you'll get the understanding. Is he going to get a new trial? And then we'll watch the hearing.
he murdered Connor right before he was born, when he murdered his wife, Laci Peterson, but is still claiming his innocence. And the key piece of evidence, apparently, this new evidence that the LA Innocence Project is talking about, is a van, a burnt out van, a van that had been set on fire in the airport district early Christmas morning, December 25th, 2002, just hours after Laci Peterson was discovered missing. The van was set on fire while parked in an alley. In his examination of the vehicle in his contest, he saw that the mattress in the rear passenger area had visible red-brown staining on a portion that was unburned. He recalled that a presumptive test using luminol or a similar chemical was conducted on a cutting from the stained area of the mattress, and it showed to be presumptive positive for the presence of blood. So we're talking about a van. We got some pictures of it that was a torched van in Modesto, about a mile away from Laci's house. I'm going to call it Laci's house. You also have pictures of the interior of this van as well. And they're talking about, I guess, a mattress or a piece of a mattress there that they want to have tested for DNA. This is what this LA Innocence Project is focusing on. We've got a hearing on a motion to seal April 16th, a hearing on DNA testing motion May 29th, and a hearing on a motion for discovery July 15th. So this thing's moving forward. Let's bring back in our think tank, Ann Bremner, Rick King, Judge Gail Byers. And I'm going to save you for last on this one because we were there for all this. Rick, what are your thoughts? What do you need?
All right, before I get into their thoughts, I hope everyone's still with me. Today's a day. This week's been a week, and this month is going to be a month. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a good spot to record. I got a lot more followers faster than I thought, and I've got a lot of content. And my roof fell in, and so there's a lot of things going on. We're rearranging. So I think I'm going to have a new spot probably by tomorrow, everybody. And I get a lot of interruptions in here and dogs and all that. So I wanted to say that. Thank you for being here. And soon It'll be a lot calmer for me and I can be focused because this is what I want to do with these cases. But now you're going to listen to the thoughts. You heard my thoughts that had nothing to do with this. Thank you for listening to me vent for a second and knowing that sometimes I'm distracted, but hang in there with me. All right, let's listen to this because he's serving a life sentence right now. And we may be going back to trial.
Need to give this guy another trial, a new trial, to have this double murder conviction tossed?
I'm going to need that DNA to come back to the Laci or something like that. Anything short of that right now, I think that we're just grasping. And let me tell you, I am a fan of the Innocence Project and the work that they do.
I agree. I just said that before, and I did not watch this. I didn't have a chance. I work all day. Grasping at straws is the word I use, and I am a fan of the Innocence Project and the LA Innocence Project for what they do. I don't want to be in jail for nothing for something that I didn't do or for nothing. And I don't want any of you to be in jail for something you didn't do and for a wrong piece of evidence. But this guy has had his chance at trial, and we all saw it, and he's guilty. But there's people that don't think he is.
A college classmate of mine participated when we were in school, and she was involved in the exoneration of someone. And so I believe in the work that they do. And however, in this case, there's just much on the side,
Yeah, there is a lot on the other side. And I'm not sure if this particular Innocence Project is connected to the others.
Yeah.
I've heard mixed stories about that.
Okay.
Judge Gail Byers.
It'll be better when I move anyway, everybody. I like this background, but I'm going to have a cool background and the internet's not going to be spotty. So stay with me. Don't let anybody drop or unsubscribe. As a matter of fact, please like, subscribe, share. I'm moving a lot of my things around, everybody, and I'm spending money on this equipment and my time to do this. So please, everybody, like, share, subscribe, do all the things because I'm putting a lot of work into this, and I'd love to be fan funded at some point, but right now it's all out of my pocket. And when you see these glitches, it's just because I have to hardwire myself and move my space, which is time consuming as well. But the effort is worth it if I can do this. And you know what? I am in California and Modesto is right there and San Mateo is right by me. So I could go to one of the hearings.
Should that DNA be tested, first of all? Should they get it? And should that DNA be tested from this torched van?
I actually think, Vinny, we're 2 decades out. There was a considerable amount of evidence that was presented against Scott Peterson that resulted in his conviction. But that being said, I think that if there is any evidence that is potentially exculpatory, that should have been disclosed at the time of trial, even if it was 20 years ago, then yes, it should be tested. But anything short of actually connecting that DNA to the victim or that baby,
I would love to go to that. You see that burnt out piece that they're showing? It was a mattress and it was in a van across the street related to burglaries. Now, again, I lived in Modesto, so I was right there when all of it happened. And Carly's right. That would be cool to go to that hearing, to that specific hearing. So that's in the summer, and that's like 10 days before my birthday, and I could easily get the time off. That's going to be the DNA. They have to take the time to do it. I can actually, that's why it was important earlier when I shared that with you. It's actually May 29th, which isn't too far away. That's the hearing for the DNA testing motion, and San Mateo is not far from me. As a matter of fact, we work for GoPro. Everybody knows GoPro. And we're out there working today in San Mateo for GoPro. So that shows you how close I am. And I could go, and I'd love to see this evidence. I wonder if the courtroom's going to be packed.
is worth no more than the court's time, the amount of time it takes to slam the gavel and say dismissed and just march everybody out of the courtroom. But I think that it is worth the exercise to at least determine and exclude that, because otherwise, again, we don't build faith in this justice system if we have systems where prosecutors potentially withhold important evidence that defendants do have a right to have, even if that doesn't result in their exoneration.
And Bremner, what are we obligated to do if they test that DNA and it comes back connecting to Laci Peterson? Do we have to ourselves file briefs to have Scott Peterson set free?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think that's such a remote possibility. It's almost laughable. I mean, you and I were at that trial, Vinny. All the evidence pointed to him. I mean, he was out there looking over San Francisco Bay for the bodies to come up with a tracking device on him. He's trying to flee the border and down at Torrey Pines with a different hairdo and a Viagra and socks in his car and his brother's ID.
And a bunch of cash, and a big stack of cash. By the way, the hair, no, he didn't dye his hair. He jumped in the pool. It was the chlorine, remember, Ann?
Oh, yeah, that's what he said, right. I mean, then he's got the girlfriend, Amber, and he's talking to her from the Eiffel Tower when he's at the memorial. I mean, everything. I mean, it was just outrageous, just outrageous. We sat through that. He was so guilty. He had a smirk on his face the whole time, and the jurors said, "We just want to wipe that smirk off his face," and they did, and they gave him the death
Agreed. He
20
still
years
has a
ago.
smirk.
So now you look back at this with an innocent project saying, "Want to take this up?" I just find it reprehensible.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to look at that case. Look at that case. Look what happened.
And the theory is this van is involved in some local burglaries, and she witnessed something, so they abducted her, put her in the van, killed her in the van, and then I don't know, right away dumped her in the bay, or waited until they found out where Scott Peterson was so they could frame the manure salesman from Modesto. All right. Fasten your seatbelts. Up next.
That actually made me laugh, everybody. The stuff he says, the Viagra. Don't forget the Viagra. He had plenty of that because he was planning on having lots of sex with different women. And if that didn't, in that last statement right there that you just heard from Vinny, if that didn't tell you, if you did not watch the trial and you just heard that bit of evidence, it goes to show you what a shit show that we're having happen right now and what justice isn't sometimes. And again, LA Innocence Project, I love you and I love what you do, but I don't think they should have all these hearings and all these dates for that piece of evidence. Why can't they just test it and go to the judge in a small hearing? Why have 4 dates set after the one we're going to watch? But I want to see how they present it, because I mean, it is important. If he really was to get off, I'd have to eat my words. And we're gonna have to come up with something that is my punishment when I'm wrong. If we're doing something and I'm like sitting here preaching to everybody, and then they come back not guilty, and it's evident, we're gonna have to come up with something I'm gonna do that's really silly, because I hate being wrong. But if I am, I will say it to you. Let's it's just funny.
Next.
We don't want to watch about the tank, whatever he was watching. It was a weird something about rats. I don't even know. I had to turn it off. I don't care about that. All I care about is the Scott Peterson case, and is he going to get a new trial? Yeah, everybody. I'm shocked they took this case too, and they're spending so much money. Juror 13. I don't know who else is in California. I think somebody else yesterday in chat is in California. We get taxed 30% here, and it might be a little more than 30%. So when I get a $10,000 paycheck, I come home with like $5,900. That's how bad it is, everybody. So California's taxes are huge, and we're paying for this. We're paying for this. They might be paying for the DNA evidence, but we're paying for the courts and the judges and the appointed lawyers and all that. So that's what makes me mad about this. And that's why I want to see justice be done once and for all. So now we're going to get back into the actual hearing, and I can talk shit with you and get it out and vent and have you guys joke with me while we watch this. I needed this today. I've had a shitty month since my roof fell in. Actually, it kind of sucks, but here we go.
responsive motion. And what we need the court's help with perhaps is identifying the date that we begin to run that time. We have 90 days for service.
Well, just a second, just saying a little bit of background. I'm going to mute the clerk because we are getting some background. So Mr. Peterson, if you do need to communicate with your counsel at any point, you can let us know that by simply raising your hand so that we can unmute you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So we received motion attachments on January 9th. The AG's office, which also needed to be served, received the motion with the attachments exhibits on January 23rd. So we will be ready to file our response by 90 days. For those dates, we're looking at either April 2nd from when the AG was served or April 18th from when we were served.
Okay. And so if that's going to be when you're going to be filing your responses or when you're going to be ready to file your responses, how much time would Mr. Peterson's counsel need to then file any replies?
Why is the judge talking so loud and this bitch here I can't hear her? Like, put your mic up, lady. I got mine up. I'm ready for my yelling voice today. Sorry about that. If I keep adjusting the volume, it's because of this, but we're into the hearing now, everybody. So this is my channel, and this is normally how I like to do things. I am true crime all the time, so I'm always going to be watching hearings when I have time. The only reason we don't watch it all damn day long with each other is because I'm working. So let's get me monetized and get some funding so we could do this together a lot more all the time.
Your Honor, we would ask for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Can I just inquire? We were given somewhat mixed signals at the meet and confer concerning whether the district attorney's office intends to file a blanket opposition to both motions. Some specific items will be and others that they will not with respect to the discovery motion. So if the court could inquire whether they intend to file a blanket motion opposing all requests, or if it's with respect to certain items, perhaps we could begin receiving the items that they are not objecting to.
I mean, I would expect that the counsel could handle that in the meet and confer process. So the people are entitled to an opportunity to respond. They can decide what the scope of their response is going to be. If you're going to need 2 weeks to respond to that, then I will set a hearing that contemplates that you will have time to file a reply, and I will have time to read all of the pleadings before we have the hearing. So let's see. If the people are looking at being ready to file their responsive pleadings by the 22nd of April, and counsel's going to need at least 2 weeks for the reply, then that would put us with a briefing finishing somewhere around May 6th. So we would be looking at a hearing. I'd like at least 2 weeks to review the last of the pleadings. So somewhere on or after the 20th of May.
Your Honor, if I might,
yes.
In terms of the timing of our response, I was speaking specifically about the DNA motion.
So this is what I put up for everybody, and I hope you all stay here and just listen to me. I'm in Pacific Standard Time, so it's 5:23. Carly's with me on that time. Some of you are on Mountain Time, Central, and Eastern Time, which may be 8:30. So you may be, I don't know, chilling, just watching this, maybe doing dishes or relaxing. So just relax and listen to this with me. Hang in there, and yeah, thank you for being here. I just wanted to say I will show you again the hearings at the end so you know. And yeah, let's get me by then to get, it's not hard right now, guys. I'm almost at 500 followers, and I just need a couple thousand watch hours, which isn't hard either because I'm getting good numbers. So let's get me monetized so I can go to those hearings, okay? I promise you I will.
They'll be ready to respond to that on that date. Okay. And then we would ask for an opportunity to file a response to the discovery motion as well. And we would ask 90 days from the date we file the DNA motion to respond to the discovery motion.
Is there a reason that you need an additional 90 days beyond for the discovery motion or in parallel, Ms. Latiker?
Yes.
Or Mr. Harris?
Yes. As the court may have already seen in the pleadings, the defense pleadings in this particular case, specifically for the DNA motion, is 142 pages of pleadings, plus over 880 pages of exhibits that are attached. The exhibits came to us later than the initial pleadings, and so that's been one of the delays for us, having to go through each of those particular exhibits. The statute for the DNA motion does have a 90-day deadline. The statute for the discovery does not have a deadline. It's been interpreted by the court to be a reasonable time frame.
Okay.
We think that the DNA motion would also assist, having that resolved would also assist in some aspects as to the discovery motion, because specifically in the statute it says that the two do not work necessarily in conjunction.
Right.
Also, the discovery motion itself is another 62 pages with a large volume of exhibits for that as well. So we've been concentrating on trying to get the DNA motion, which does have the deadline done. A lot of the materials that we will have in the DNA response will be applicable to the discovery, but we just think a reasonable time period based on the size of these motions. It's not unreasonable to ask for another period of time.
Well, I guess the concern that I have about 90 plus 90 in terms of your responsive pleadings is that the Court of Appeal has issued.
I'm sorry about this loud judge. I try to lower my voice when I have the volume that when I have it all the way up, and then she gets loud and the lady gets lower. I can't do anything about that, but I try not to yell in your ear. I try to bring my tone down. So yeah, look at this crazy looking judge. But listen, this is what it's all leading up to, is what I showed you at the beginning. And I'll flash those again on the screen, all the dates, so everybody knows. And you can go back and watch this. Whoever's watching this knows the dates, and you can, especially if there's no trials going on, you can go and watch the hearing.
A stay for a relatively limited period of time. We're working on a 6-month deadline before, and I understand that there is the potential for an extension of that deadline if there's additional good cause and not being done with the pleadings here and with the hearings here. Determining the scope of the discovery would potentially be good cause, but given that they have sort of given us a 6-month time window to work with for what they think would be an initial opening, I'm concerned that setting a briefing schedule for that exhausts the entirety of that time period is not going to be viewed as potentially reasonable by them. So, and these two statutes, while I understand a lot of the issues may be interconnected with the discovery the defense is seeking, I don't see a lot of what they're seeking in the 1054.9 motion appears to me to be in the nature of file reconstruction. Some of it not so much, but there are.
I think I like this judge already. And if any of you are like me, and I know Sadie's mama and Carly and Juror 13, Miracle Hearts, all of you guys, I think you actually do enjoy watching this, and I think you listen to it in your ear while you're doing chores or working or whatever you're doing. Even like Stephanie, when she's on here, she's at the doctor's listening to this. So to me, this is interesting. And when it gets not interesting or I'm doing something else, it's kind of easy to just tune in the background and then come back to it. But I like this judge a lot. I like her. I do. I can't wait till this gets going, man. I really do.
Things where essentially they're asking for missing date stamp numbers and other things.
Get it together, guys.
That they already have. I don't be working. What I'm still so if we are on it.
One of the things as it relates to the discovery motion, there was a couple of issues. One is we believe it to be issue preclusion. For in fact, there has already been a previous 1054.9 motion that has been brought, has been litigated, and resolved primarily against the defense back in 2011, 2012. So because of that, we have to go back and we have to call out what has previously been dealt with, and that's requiring us, again, to go back through things that are not necessarily in their materials, but it's in the court record. We also believe that a lot of these items have been raised and litigated as part of the initial appeal and also litigated as part of the first habeas. So because of that, and unfortunately, we will be providing to the court or asking the court to take judicial notice of the petition that was there because a lot of these issues have been raised and have been adjudicated. So because of that, there's a lot of back and forth from the record, and there is going to be a large amount of reading for both sides.
Okay. That brings up another point. The defense did make a request.
Thank you, Judge, for lowering your volume.
For the court court to take judicial notice of the entirety of the trial court file, the entirety of the direct appeal, the entirety of the habeas proceedings, and all of the Supreme Court proceedings, including all the pleadings. Is there any objection to that request from the people?
There is as to some portions. We have a portion of it in our response to the DNA motion to address that. But basically for the court, anything that is part of the record of the case that has been adjudicated, we have no objection to that being taken judicial notice of because it's the law of the case in a sense. What we do have a complaint about is there's a request from the petitioners that the court take judicial notice of their pleadings in these new proceedings. Those are hearsay, and they just because they've been filed does not make them admissible. So because of that, we will be objecting to those portions of their request. But the fact that there is a new petition and the previous court proceedings, those we don't have any objection to for judicial notice.
Okay. The reason I inquired was because since you had referenced that there were other parts of the file that you were going to be asking the court to take judicial notice of, I thought we might be able to get at least some of that out of the way. But if it's going to be covered in response, please to rule on any request for judicial notice until I.
Why are you so loud, lady?
The defense on the proposed briefing timing.
Now I can't hear her. What happened?
Timing of
Come on.
hearings.
Get out of your mic.
A very, very detailed informal request for discovery on November 14th.
This is rough.
So the district attorney's office has known for 4 months.
Sorry, everybody.
Which specific items of discovery we are requesting. We gave them references to Bates pages. We gave them references to where in the police reports the items we're requesting are referred to. We were very, very specific. We spent a lot of time trying to suss out what frankly are very alarming deficiencies in the discovery that was provided.
I'm sorry,
Those are
Juror
the items we're
13. That's
requesting.
definitely not me. I have my mic on, my headphones. I do all that so you guys can hear. But these courts and their recording, I don't know who does it for law and crime. It's much different than court TV. Court TV dominated that. They dominated the court documentation. So usually they're pretty good, but you don't get as close up of shots. But these ones, it's like the judge is loud, the attorney you can't hear, and then something gets really loud or they hit a mic. So what are you going to do? I can't fix that. But I'm sorry. I'm doing my best to keep that volume consistent.
I agree. It should not take 180 days for them to locate those items and provide them to us. The defense was entitled to those at the time of trial. Mr. Peterson has been waiting 20 years to find some of these police reports and audio recordings and video recordings that should have been provided. So I don't think that the nature of the request, it's not a fishing expedition. They're very precise, they're very specific, and we believe that they are probably very easily accessible. So we would ask that they begin providing the discovery that we are entitled to under 1054.9. The prior 1054.9 that Mr. Harris referenced does not include what we are asking for. It related specifically, almost exclusively to expert materials and other evidence that is not included in our motion. So we are eager to get our investigation underway and completed. The Court of Appeal did give us a very short time period within which to conduct our investigation. The materials we are asking for are reasonable. They're within the scope of 1054.9, and we would like to begin receiving that discovery as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of briefing schedule, the court is prepared to accept the proposal by the district attorney as far as the DNA testing motion is going. And so the response for the responsive plea will be due no later than close business filed
This
and
lady
served
killing
by
me.
April 22nd. Given the timetable that was contemplated by the Court of Appeal
Okay.
And the fact that essentially
Okay, maybe I don't like this judge. Come on, lady, get your mic right, please. You're killing everybody. They're going to jump off.
the discovery request was made prior to this motion being filed and prior to the Court of Appeal issuing their stay on the proceedings to allow these issues to be litigated in the trial court. I am inclined to agree with the defense that a request for an additional 90 days beyond the briefing on the 1054 issues is too long, given the timetable that the Court of Appeal has given us. In terms of the briefing for the 1054.9, because the requests are extensive, it's a 62-page discovery letter with a number of subparts. Some of it is specifically identified by missing date stamp numbers, but some of it is broader than that. So the court is inclined to go about 30 days beyond the briefing deadline on the DNA motion. And so if I'm looking at roughly the end of May for the 1054.9
Yep.
reply, could you have it done on or before the 20th of May?
And this is what I showed at the beginning. I like to kind of go over the case, recap. If you come on, you can know what I'm talking about. I kind of get to the point, and I'm one of those people that likes to tell you something and then I'll work backwards and tell you a story. I'm definitely not a let's go in chronological order person. I don't look like that kind of person, and I'm not that kind of person. So I'll tell you a story, go in between, go backwards, and then I get to the punchline. It's just my thought process is all over the place. But I like storytelling for you all.
Okay, so May 20th will be the briefing deadline for the 1054.9. All right, and then with the, so if you're looking for at least 2 weeks for the reply, Ms. Mitchell, that your reply will be already done on the DNA before you get the responsive pleadings on the 1054.9. How much time do you contemplate you'll need for a reply on the 1054.9?
We could file our reply by June 3rd.
Okay, so
get on it, lady.
Pleadings for
you've had 20 years.
on the DNA will be due, if you're looking for 2 weeks, that would put it May 6th. And reply pleadings for the 1054.9, you indicated June 3rd, so that's fine. Motion to seal. That is something that I think we probably should, can and should do before we deal with the substantive pleadings. And so I did not see a responsive pleading on the motion to seal. How much time do the people think that they would need on a responsive pleading to the motion to seal?
The only issue that we have as to the motion to seal, and this is why we have not filed something, is the documents in question that are being requested. The people have never been provided with an unredacted copy of those reports. We still do not know who these witnesses are. They're anonymous to us. So we're asking the court to order the petitioner to turn those over to us before we can actually decide one way or the other. But it's the people's position is we probably won't be objecting to the motion to seal based on what's alleged once we have that information.
Okay, Ms. Mitchell.
Your Honor, the identity of the witnesses whose names are redacted in the declarations that Mr. Harris is referring to have stated that they are fearful of retaliation by
Get it together.
the department if their names become known, and have asked that.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you, coming from Modesto. So I lived in Modesto for at least 3 years, but I also went to high school in Oakdale, California, which is only like 10 or 12 miles from Modesto. So we always went out to Modesto to go party and stuff. And of course, at some point, there was only a limited amount of bars that you could go to in Oakdale. So I was always out in Modesto, but I did live there for 3 years. And the cops in Modesto are shady as fuck. So she is not lying when she says they're afraid of retaliation. I actually got targeted heavily from Oakdale and Modesto PD, and I've never been arrested for anything. Everybody, I have no record. You could look me up, do a background check, but this lady is not lying when she says that.
Their names remain sealed. I would request that we perhaps have a conference in chambers to discuss this issue. It's sensitive to our ongoing investigation. There are a number of other witnesses who we have been investigating who are in a similar situation.
Okay, well, all I'm asking for essentially is a briefing schedule for the motion to seal. And there's a procedure that's set forth in the rules of court for a motion to seal in terms of lodging a pleading with the court that is the proposed sealing and the narrowly tailored nature of it and serving it on the opposing party, it appears that that actually hasn't been done in this case. All of the pleadings that were filed were essentially filed publicly, but with the redactions that you are proposing. So in terms of the procedure for the motion to seal, it is, I would say, somewhat unusual given the rules of court. And I anticipate that the parties will not be the only ones who want to be heard on the issue of the motion to seal, given the nature of the case. So let's set a briefing schedule. I'm not going to make any specific orders, and whether or not the motion is compliant with the rules of court and the proposed redactions are within the nature of the rules of court is something I'm going to rule on at the time of the motion, not now when I have one motion, not a response, and not all the pleadings that I anticipate that I'm going to get on it. So how much time would the people need in order to be prepared to file a response to what is in the record?
2 weeks would be fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you don't think they should need that much time. They literally have had at least 4 or 5 years. I'm trying to think. 4 years, 2020, they started doing this. So they should have their shit together. I'm not even sure why they're taking any time or spending time on all these hearings. This is hearing 1. And then I have the list of the other hearings coming up. So I'm not really sure why it's taking up so much time. But let's see. Is there going to be a new trial? What do you guys think?
Fine. So, and then any reply that you may have to that, Ms. Mitchell, how much time would you need once you get the people's response?
1 week, please, Your Honor.
Okay. So 2 weeks from today.
Okay. We're going to move this fast.
6th of March. So people's response will be due March 26th, close of business. And you said 1 week, Ms. Mitchell, for your reply. That would put it about April 3rd. So April 3rd for motion to seal reply. And we will need to let's set a hearing date on the motion to seal, and then hearing dates on the DNA and the 1054.9. The hearing date.
Yeah, you hear all this stuff, and I know all you are true crime junkies also, and you're just into the true crime in the courts, but all of this, it's like you need a hearing for a hearing of a hearing to get to that hearing. So all of the dates that she's setting, it's actually like a week out for what's actually happening.
Date on the motion to seal can be earlier. So that'll be, we'll do that first. Proposals from council if we're looking at April 3rd for the close of briefing, and the court will need about a week to review on the motion to seal. So anytime after April 15th is fine. What's council's preference?
We can do April 16th.
April 16th is fine for us. It's fine for the court.
All right, let me just check the court schedule. Yeah, I'm free April 16th, so that's fine. April 16th, 9 a.m. motion to seal. And Ms. Mitchell, is Mr. Peterson going to want to be personally present for that or continue to appear electronically?
My understanding is that it's supposed to appear electronically, but he can correct me if that is not accurate.
Okay, and let's go ahead and ask to unmute for that.
There you go, guys. Okay, so here's Scott Peterson at 51 years old, and he can't figure out how to use the Zoom app. He's muted now, and he doesn't really understand this, I'm sure. He hasn't been in court or anything. And yeah, he's had a lot of different kinds of things going on. They come visit him, but it's funny. It's interesting to see him, and he's still smiling for some reason. But I think it's just because he's on TV, and now he's going to get a whole bunch of more women. Crazy women.
Still muted. All right, Mr. Peterson, we're contemplating an April 16th hearing on the motion to seal the pleadings or parts of the pleadings in this matter. Are you going to want to appear via Zoom or in person for that?
Soon is fine, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Then for hearing dates on the DNA motion in the 1054.9, what's the party's preference in terms of hearing those together or separately?
Your Honor, we would prefer to have the DNA issue resolved as soon as possible so that if there is going to be testing ordered, we can get that started.
Okay, people.
If you know the party's going to-
Okay, that's fine. So if the briefing on the DNA motion is going to be completed by May 6th, then, and if I need a couple of weeks to read the pleadings, then we're looking at the last week of May. So any preference by council during the week of May 27th for the hearing on the DNA motion, and what is the time estimated necessary for that argument?
We can be available May 28th, Tuesday, May 28th.
That is the day after Memorial Day. So I don't know if that's going to cause travel problems or any issues with the court's calendar.
May 29th it is.
Have any plans on Memorial Day, but if council do and they would prefer to go to the 29th or sometime later in the week, that's fine.
29th is fine.
Okay, and
The 29th it is. Done. Sold. 29th, everybody. And yes, he's not aging very well. And, I don't think you get good water in there. It's hard water, bad food, no Botox, no kind of skincare. And we don't want them to age good, do we? But for some reason, the women still love him, everybody. And he's still getting love letters from crazy people. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some girl that he's engaged to, a girl or three, to be honest with you. Yeah, we can deep dive even more into him. But, yeah, right now I don't know too much about him, and I'm catching up on this right now because nothing was really happening. All I knew is that he got off a death row, and now we're actually moving forward, and there may be a trial date. If there's a trial, I will definitely go to that one. We'll see if that happens.
do we think it'll be anything more than a full day?
Don't think it should be more than a full day.
Ms. Mitchell?
Having not seen their opposition, I can't say, but I would hope not more than a day.
Okay, we'll block off a full day for it. So, and it may not take that long, but we'll be prepared if it does. May 29th at 9 a.m. for the DNA testing motion. Then the 10:50. Oh, and so in terms of the DNA testing motion, Ms. Mitchell, do you know if Mr. Peterson has a preference in terms of Zoom or personal appearance?
I believe his preference is Zoom.
Is that correct, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so that'll be via Zoom. Okay, and then we'll need to schedule the 1054.9 hearing. If the briefing is going to close on that on June 3rd, then we will need, if the court needs, that is going to run into some travel plans that I have, and I'm going to need to step off the bench briefly to confirm exactly when I'm returning because it's an extensive absence in June. So let me
She
step
must
off
have
the bench,
kids.
briefly consult my calendar and let you know after essentially when I'm going to be returning and when I will be available for that, and then we'll discuss dates. So we'll take a brief recess.
And we won't. Let's see what we got at the recess. Oh, could we get to see him? Oh, we do. Let's look at. Let's watch Scott Peterson for a minute. He doesn't have a lot of wrinkles though. But what I do notice without hearing all that background noise, he actually doesn't look too bad. I never thought he was a good-looking guy, and especially when I know somebody murdered their wife and unborn child. But now you get to see Scott Peterson at 51 years old. And yes, his sister, no son in jail yet. The sister still thinks he's good. I think everybody is in the same stance, and the sister-in-law is definitely still in his corner for some odd reason. I don't think anybody's changed, and we haven't heard much about the family. I looked heavily, but let's continue watching this. I just wanted to focus for a minute on him, and he knows he's being watched, so just watch his expressions. If the court wasn't so bad, I'd talk more, but it's very loud. It's very weird. She became a lawyer just to learn how to support him. That's how weird it is. Yes, everybody's looking at you, Scott Peterson. All eyes on you again. All right, we don't care about this guy. We're almost done with this. It's funny that the internet was so spotty and now it's gonna get better towards the end. All right, we don't care about you anymore. Rex the judge.
I'm going to have to go until after July 1st. So, council, I'm looking at sometime during, if I'm going to be.
And it ends up being July 15th, but I can't let this slide here with this comment. I can't let it slide at all. Do you know what he actually did, Carly? He sold shit. He was a shit salesman. So when you do say that he looks like a car salesman, he sold manure in Modesto. Modesto is Modesto is just a bunch of like cows and farm area, and there's like a little city inside of it. So he sold shit. He was a shit salesman, and it would have been a step up if he was an actual car salesman, because the car salesmen in Modesto are really successful. Most of the dealerships are owned privately, and those guys are like the richest mother effers around. But no, he sold cow manure. So there you go. Question answered.
Reading pleadings after I return. I'm going to be looking at sometime during the week of July 15th.
July 15th, sold.
We can be available July 15th, Your Honor.
Okay. July 15th, 9 o'clock. And in terms of your client's appearance preference, Ms. Mitchell, also Zoom or in person for that one? Okay. Mr. Peterson, is that correct?
You're muted, dude.
Still muted.
Look at that smile. Idiot. Manure salesman. He sold shit, everybody. That's worse than a car salesman. Not that car salesmen are bad, but I think you meant a used car salesman.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, he figured it out.
Last housekeeping matter, the court did, to the court's department email, receive an ex parte communication from apparently some kind of a spectator. I read about one sentence of it, enough to realize it was an ex parte communication, did not read any further, and counsel have been provided, as I understand from the clerk, copies of that email. Did both counsel receive it? Okay, thank you. And the court is not going to be reviewing any incoming email to that inbox in the future to avoid that issue recurring in the future. So people shouldn't bother to email. Okay, is there anything else either council needs to take up for today's date before we recess?
I have one question, Your Honor.
Yes,
we have received a number of inquiries from members of the press and media asking for copies of the motion we filed. We have not provided anything to anyone in the media or the press. Apparently, they are not on the court's website, and so I'm just asking for guidance. Is there any issue with us providing the motions, or is the court planning to put them on the website so they are available?
I don't have any plans in that regard while the motion to seal is pending, at least, and I have not made any orders about what counsel may or may not do in terms of their communication with media. So, okay. Yes.
People can make a suggestion. One of the things that Judge DeLuca did during the trial, because of the media attention and not wanting to be distracted by additional requests that would come in from the media once a motion was filed, his position was that he would take the motions filed by either side and he would hold them from being put on the website or from public filing until the other side responded, because a lot of times that resolved some of the issues or questions that may have arisen. So we would suggest that might be a possibility here as well.
The difficulty, and I think part of this, Mr. Harris, is that the court's filing procedures have changed since Judge Saluki was the file. We don't have a lot of control over when things come in now because it's all electronic filing. So I don't actually see it until the clerk's office processes it. So while I appreciate the suggestion, it's not consistent with our mandatory filing procedure. So thank you all. Okay.
Thanks, Judge. All right. Get this out of here. That one was rough because of that damn I'm gonna lower mine so I don't yell in your ear now. I usually keep mine about 70 or so, and then I try to talk more into the mic. Everybody here with me, there's some new people. It looks like people aren't commenting, but they're coming by listening. Is Scott Peterson gonna get a new trial? What do you guys think? I'm gonna put this back up there actually, because this will show you the dates again, and they'll be prettier. The prettier dates. It's kind of like my thumbnail. So let me share that up there, and then I'll zoom in. You'll see on the docket what they got going on. Let's zoom in. You guys can see the dates. Maybe it will stay that way. Hold on. Come on, not all the way in, just a little bit. Glitchy computer. It's actually the internet right now. So see how that looks. All right, that looks good. Everybody can see that. So that was and yes, lurkers, please like this, subscribe. Don't just pass by and not. Please like it, subscribe. If anybody's asking about the trial and the details of it, I broke it way down for you. I told you what happened started from 2020 all the way to 2024. Gave you all the dates of it. If you missed that, you can go back. You can see Scott Peterson's #1 fan, and I can tell you it's not his mistress that he probably got himself convicted on, or I should say for. So if you know about this trial and you know that his mistress, as soon as she stepped forward and told everybody about their relationship, he was pretty much convicted in the public eye. Now, I'm going to lead into this. When I say when somebody gets convicted in the public eye, it seems unfair, and it seems unfair until you get to court. And when you get to court and you see the real evidence, that's what matters. Now, there's already been real evidence here. Yeah, the real evidence showed that he killed his wife and unborn son, Connor, with so many overwhelming pieces of evidence that it's ridiculous. Now, this case is hindering on one thing and one thing only: the DNA that they already tested when he had his original 20-year ago. It wasn't 20 years ago because he was arrested, and it probably took a couple of years to get to trial. The trial was presented, and we are blown away with the evidence. Now, back then, 20 years ago, the evidence and the DNA was a lot weaker, and there was a few old neighbors that aren't even alive anymore. Honestly, there was like an 80-year-old lady that said she saw Laci walking the dog that morning when supposedly he was somewhere else and had an alibi. His alibi initially was him being out golfing, and then he changed his mind and told people that he was fishing. Fishing. And then he told people he was fishing in the bay. Guess what? That's where Laci and Connor's body washed up. So look at these hearing dates here. I had it on a document earlier for you. You can see the next thing coming up. I don't even know what month we're in. I heard that it's St. Patrick's Day soon. And I said, what? What happened here? So next month, April 16th, hearing on motion to seal. Then we got the DNA. Hearing on DNA testing motion May 29th. And then we're going to move into 10 days before my birthday, y'all. Hearing on the motion for discovery. Now, the motion for discovery is going to be, they're going to lay it all out what they have. After they do the motion to seal, I think that may be what evidence they have and what the judge is going to let be presented. And then the next one's going to be the DNA testing and what comes back. And I'm curious to see if they're even going to say what the results are of that, or wait until the motion for discovery and lay everything out. So the motion for discovery is going to be like a mini trial. So if you're looking here and you're wondering, is Scott Peterson going to get a new trial? July 15th is going to be the motion for discovery. So that's when we're going to hear what they have. And we're going to hear the prosecution and the defense. The defense is the one that brought this back. So we're going to hear the defense give it their best shot at trying to get a trial. I love the mini trials. They're kind of like pretrial hearings. This is not a pretrial hearing, but the motion for discovery is what they found, what they have, and then they're going to be able to go back and forth between the prosecution and the defense. The prosecution is going to be able to say what they had before and rebuttal what the defense is saying, which the defense is hired by the LA project, LA Innocence Project. I do want to show you for a minute. I don't think I can play it too long without getting it pulled off, but I wanted to look up what another thing that got convicted. Do you remember? Does anybody remember his interview? He immediately went on to some big news station. I don't know. He did a couple of interviews, but I don't know if it was Barbara Walters or what, but it was another Chris Watts, everybody. So, Scott Peterson, I'm looking for that now. I didn't pull it up before because I didn't want to get kicked off, but he did an interview and his body language, it was Good Morning America. His body language was so bad that, Diane Sawyer interview. How many interviews did he do? Let's see. We got ABC News. Yeah, he did multiple interviews. And I wonder about this ABC News. I can show a little bit of it. Let's see if this plays. This one's not. Is it playing? Oh, this is actually ABC News. Look, let me see. And then I will share it and we can play a little bit and you can see his body language. Hold on. Oh, you know what I might actually have, everybody? I'm sitting here thinking, and you guys are still on here. I think I had one that I can actually get away with. And I think we can look up, if I can't show this one, we can see if Dr. G breaks it down on his body language. And see if Dr. G breaks down Scott Peterson's. Otherwise, we could kind of break it down for Dr. G and talk about that because his body language got really bad and really criticized, like Scott Peterson. Not Scott Peterson. We're doing Scott Peterson, like Chris Watts. So if not, we can do it ourselves. But oh wow, okay, yeah, I should have known this one, guys. You guys are in for a treat, and I'm in for a treat because I haven't seen this yet. But I did see the original interview, so stay in with me. I have people in here. We're going to do a Dr. G video, and Dr. G is going to break it down for us, everybody. Instead of me watching it on Barbara Walters or Diane Sawyer, where I can get kicked off, I can show you right here, everybody. This is great. All right, let's do it, guys. I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. Oh, come on. I'm sorry, guys. 1 second.
So attempted to get a new trial, which didn't happen. What we're going to be looking at today are interviews before he was arrested. He was a suspect in these interviews, but he had not yet been arrested. Before we get started, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content.
Everybody, go to Dr. G Explains, like, subscribe, and share. I love Dr. G. He makes the most sense, and he picks up on these cases when they get hot and heavy. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner, there must have been the ABC logo. He blurred it out. He put a block over it. So I wasn't able to do that without any warning, and so we're going to watch it here. Let's watch it.
Just like this. All right, let's go. This interview is from 2002. It's with Diane Sawyer. It was when his wife was still considered missing. We're going to just jump right in.
I think everybody sitting at home wants the answer to the same question. Did you murder your wife?
No, I did not. And I had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance. And
all right, so one of the things that we're already going to notice is his tone. Now, when there's a televised, a little awkward at first, so I'm not going to judge and base too much on this, but I do want you to consider he kind of half saying didn't do it. When you have been your wife or even the suggestion, it would be the problem of anger, straight looking offended. He is trying to calm off this whole interview. But watch this again in the context of it being suggested that you did something to your wife. Check this out.
I did not, and I had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance. And use the word murder, and yeah, I mean,
He's smiling, everybody.
a possibility.
Just look at how strikingly strange this is. He's saying that it's possible that his wife and unborn child have been murdered. And he's got a huge smile across his face. I think that what his plan probably was, my assumption was, and we're going to get more into this as we go, would be that he wants to come across as friendly and not aggressive, and that he wants to come across as calm. I think those would have been his two intentions. So come across as friendly and non-threatening and calm. But he overplayed that hand. Even in the first few seconds, we're seeing an incredibly strange and peculiar way to behave. Let's just watch this first section again.
Absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance, and use the word murder, and yeah, I mean, that is
His eyebrows went up too.
And he also said, you use the word murder, and yeah, I mean, it's not that he's confessing necessarily, but it's interesting that he is acknowledging it in that way. It's very unusual.
That's because he did it.
It's not one we're ready to accept, and it creeps in my mind late at night.
And I talked about this a bit during the Chris Watts interview, if you've watched that video, which is the awkward smiles. The smiles are not because he's feeling uncomfortable. In a grave situation like this, the awkwardness of smiling on accident is going to get hidden. I see a lot of people comment about Duper's delight. I don't think that that's what it is at this point. I think that this is an attempt to try to seem friendly and non-threatening and not seem like somebody who's capable of the kind of anger that would be required to murder somebody. So what this says to me is that the degree of anger that he's capable of showing is something that he doesn't like people to see, but I think that it is extremely high. My assumption would be that it wasn't a cold and calculated murder, that it was a violent and angry murder, would be my assumption based on what we're seeing here.
And early in the morning and during the day, all we can.
So this was like this was a pre-Chris Watts, everybody. When you go back on Chris Watts, which I can't even do that. There's so many conspiracy theories to this day that Nicole Kessinger was involved. I'm so glad that Amber Fry came to the cops immediately. Amber Fry was Scott Peterson's mistress. Thank God she came to the cops and exposed him, because who knows if we would be here today and he would even be in prison. So this is the original Chris Watts. Check it out. Let's keep watching.
Think about is the right resolution is to find her well.
But as you know, increasingly in the public, suspicion has turned on you.
Yes, definitely.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No, my God, no. Violence towards women is.
So the way he's responding is problematic, and I'll explain why. So he's not saying, I would never hurt Laci. I would never do something like that. He's just saying very generally, violence against women is not okay. Once again, he's building a case of, look, I'm not the kind of guy who could do this. This is not the denial of someone who didn't do it. This is the denial of someone who is trying to use impression management, who's trying to build a case for why he's not the kind of person who would do this. So that's a mistake. You know, the fact that he's not personalizing it, the fact that he's not directly responding to the question, saying, no, I would never hurt Laci, saying, no, violence against women is not okay. That is trying to garner favor with people, thinking, well, that's what people want to hear, so that's what I'll say. Strategically, it's a mistake. Listen to him say this again.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No, my God, no. Violence towards women is unapproachable. It is the most disgusting act to me. And I know that suspicion has turned me. And it's turned me, one, because I'm her husband, and that's a natural thing. And I've heard all the statistics on all the news shows about that being, you know, someone that a husband, ex-husband, a boyfriend.
All right. One thing that you're noticing, this is just like Ted Bundy and Chris Watts. I talk
He's-
about the eyes a lot. That the direction people look, is pretty immaterial in my opinion. I know some people disagree with that, but the direction he's looking.
Without even having Dr. G explain everybody, I wanted to show this without him, but I couldn't because it would have got taken down. It is much better to have Dr. G explaining on here. However, I have my thoughts too. And before I even saw Dr. G, yes, he says the eyes, but he distances himself from Laci and Connor. He references other people. I wouldn't do that to any women. He's just completely using he's using statements that are a blanket statement for everything. He's totally not personalizing the situation of his wife and unborn son being missing. So let's hear what he says. This is the first time I've watched this interview, but I really wanted to watch it without. But Dr. G, you're the man.
Looking off to the side and all that stuff. I don't really attribute any meaning to that. I do attribute meaning to him closing his eyes at times. So just watch when he does that. He does slow eye closes. And I don't know if that's him shielding his eyes. I don't know if that's him attempting to appear calm, but we are going to see a pattern with that. Let's just watch that again.
Being, someone that a husband, ex-husband, a boyfriend, that is statistically.
And you'll notice when he said a husband.
See?
So in a sense, he's acknowledging that a husband could do this. He obviously is a husband that did it. So let's watch him say this again.
The statistics on all the news shows about that being, someone that a husband, ex-husband, a boyfriend.
So he waited till he got through the word husband to open his eyes. I don't think that was conscious. I think that's unconscious. I think that his body was trying to protect itself, because oftentimes closing our eyes, crossing our arms, blocking our bodies is a way to feel protected. And so I think in this point, he's trying to protect himself because he knows that once suspicion fully turns on him and they have more evidence, he's in trouble.
That is statistically the one who would be responsible for her disappearance. And I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No, never. I was answering your question because of suspicion that it's been turned to me. And it turned to me because.
So he already has points that he wants to make. Once again, this is not an innocent person who is trying to give a genuine interview. He has points that he thinks are important to get it. Like, so he's forgetting questions, or he's coming
of the inappropriate romantic.
So one thing that may be obvious is how calm he is. So he seems very calm, very measured. Like I said, this is impression management. He wants to show people, how could such a calm, soft-spoken person commit such a heinous act? So this is intentional, and that's something to pay attention to at times. It's not always really meaningful. Sometimes people are introverted and quiet. That doesn't necessarily mean that they committed a crime. But in his situation, he's showing such a measured approach. He's showing so little emotion. This seems like an overt attempt to do impression management, to make people see him the way he wants them to.
Came forward.
I'm glad she did.
You are?
Definitely.
All right. So if you'll notice when he said, I'm glad she did, watch this facial expression.
Fry came forward.
I'm glad.
All right. So he raised his eyebrows. That's usually a look of surprise. So I believe that he's surprised that she came forward. And so that's what we're seeing, is that he didn't anticipate that when he talked to her, when he told her the things that he did. So he was surprised that she came forward.
She did.
You are?
Definitely.
Why?
It's the appropriate thing to do. And it really shows what a person of character she is. And it.
Now, we just saw a half-cocked smile. Watch this.
Do you know what he's talking about here? He's literally complimenting his mistress, everybody. That is fucking amazing that he's on an interview for his missing wife and unborn son, and he's over there complimenting his mistress. Oh boy, I would never do that. I wouldn't do that if my wife was alive or dead. She would come back and murder me if I did that. Complimenting my mistress during an interview while she's missing. That right there is just, I do got to tell you this. After he did this interview, he hid from the public for the most part because everybody thought he was guilty after this.
What a person of character.
All right. So you see this one-sided smile. You've probably heard me talk about this before. Yes. That's a sign of contempt. That shows that he's feeling contemptuous towards her. This is his subtle ways of showing his own anger and contempt. It may look a little bit like he's smiling on both sides, but to me, it looks more dramatically on one side. As we know, one-sided smile is contempt.
Character she is, and it allows us to get back looking for Laci.
Oh
Did you tell her
boy.
that you were not married?
I did. And then when Laci disappeared, I called her, and admittedly, it wasn't immediately. It was a couple days after Laci's.
Now, one thing you'll also notice is his gaze at Diane Sawyer. He does not take his eyes off of her very often. We see this oftentimes with psychopaths. They stare through people. Now, he might offset that a little bit because he has more of a, for lack of better terms, more of a normal look. And sometimes when people have this, we don't notice when they're staring intensely. Jorn Vandersloot did the same thing. He had sort of a boyish look, and he would stare deeply at people, but it might not be obvious. And to some people, I'm sure they notice, but I don't think it's as obvious to everyone just because of the way he looks. I think Scott Peterson's very much the same way. But in many ways, he has his eyes on Diane Sawyer because he feels defensive and needs to protect himself in this situation. And very rarely, although occasionally, very rarely does he take his eyes off of her.
Disappearance. I telephoned her and told her the truth.
The truth?
That I was married, that Laci disappeared. She didn't know about it at that point.
You know, I think he might get a new trial too, with all of these hearings coming up and the DNA evidence. And we also have the juror. Don't forget that. We have the juror saying that they didn't understand the form. So we have two pieces of evidence, the juror, and we have the burnt out van with the DNA evidence. So those two pieces of evidence can cause a new trial. That being said, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be found guilty again, but getting a new trial is a big deal. It really is a huge deal. All right, let's continue watching.
And then she contacted the police.
But Fry says she first found out about Laci from the news, not from...
Were you in love with her?
All right, so that was sort of a half-committed no, and he closed his eyes. I'm not sure that he was in love with her, but he didn't like this question. At least that's what his facial expression says.
Was this the first time? Are there others out there?
No.
There's no one else who can come forward.
He answered that quick.
I owe tremendous.
But he hates this idea that that there could be someone else that could come forward.
There's no one else who can come forward.
See, as I've said before, we close our eyes when we think or see something we don't like. I don't know if it's just the concept of the idea that someone else could say something, but he really does not like this idea because he knows there's more to be said. So I think the idea that anybody else could have anything negative to say about him is scary, and he doesn't like it.
Forward.
No. I owe a tremendous apology to everyone.
All right. You'll notice
I thought he
doesn't believe what he's saying. Watch this. This is very subtle.
I owe a tremendous apology to.
See, I owe a tremendous apology to everyone.
I actually thought he was gonna apologize to Amber Fry for a second. He should be apologizing to his wife and his son. And thank you, I am Two Bear. I appreciate you so much for saying that. I do the best that I can. I'm very new at doing this, so I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of just jumped in here and had some really nice people like Carly and Grano and even Zav Girl helping me direct me the right way. So thank you, and let's keep watching.
Everyone, he doesn't believe that for a second.
I told my wife
When?
in early December.
Did it cause a rupture in the marriage?
It was not.
He's lying.
A positive, obviously.
So he doesn't want to
No, he
acknowledge
didn't.
the word rupture because it's a strong, loaded, powerful word. And that could imply that he's capable of violence. That could imply that he's capable of doing something. And because he's calculated, he's coming back and saying, no, he's trying to put different words to it because he's trying so hard to do this impression management. He's trying so hard to give a specific impression of how he wants to look to people. But watch his reaction to this again.
Did it cause a rupture in the marriage?
It was not a positive, obviously. It's
right. So he's acknowledging it's not a positive, but he won't say something as severe as rupture.
I wonder
inappropriate.
how he killed her.
Mild words, inappropriate. he will not say that.
He won't say rupture because he did murder her and he's convicted. So I can say that now, but we don't know because the autopsy was not or autopsy that you would normally think because the body washed ashore. And when the body washed up, that everything, the evidence was gone. I don't think I'd have to go back and look at the autopsy results, but you know, normally in that type of situation, it's strangulation or something like that, especially a pregnant woman that was like 9 months, 9 months. He probably strangled her or smothered her. So he's thinking back on that. I think when he closes his eyes, he's thinking about what he did.
It caused conflict or it caused a fight. That in and of itself is suspicious because obviously anybody that's going to tell their pregnant wife that, and Diane Sawyer gets to this in a second, but anybody that's going to tell their pregnant wife that they had an affair, it is going to cause conflict. It is not going to be that it was inappropriate or anything so mild. So once again, that in and of itself is suspicious that he's refusing to acknowledge any level of real, genuine conflict.
But it was not something we weren't dealing with.
A lot of arguing?
No. I can't say that even she was okay with the idea.
Of course not. Does anyone know
anything that would break us apart?
A pregnant mom that's not going to be
a lot of anger?
Pissed?
No.
Yep. See, once again, she wasn't okay with the idea. I mean, what a ridiculous way to phrase this.
Thanks, Dr. G.
Do you really expect people to believe that an 8.5-month pregnant woman learns her husband has had an affair and is saintly and casual about it? Accommodating? Makes a peace with it?
Well, you don't know. No one knows our relationship but us.
So here's a place of comfort for him. No one knows our relationship but us. That gives him power because ultimately that is true. If there's nothing that people can prove, if nobody has them on video talking, no one knows their relationship with them. So for him, this is a position of power. So he feels comfortable saying what he wants because it is impossible to prove what their relationship was like at this moment. So he can say, yeah, it was. And you have to believe it is however I say it is.
He almost seemed like he was pissed off. Look at that face. He got red and he said, "You don't know." And then he said how it was. I think he got pissed off at her with that question.
And that's at peace with it. Not happy about it.
Why did you tell her?
It was the right thing.
So that almost sounded like he was asking a question. It was the right thing. Listen to the tone of his voice, which means that obviously that's not why he told her, because it was the right thing.
He didn't tell her. He didn't tell her. He killed her.
Why did you tell her?
It was the right thing.
Because again, you know that people sitting at home have imagined that either you were in love with someone else, therefore you decided to get rid of this entanglement, namely your.
All right, so that's a point of weakness for him. That people think that he's in love with someone else. Watch his eyes close when she says that.
Either you were in love with someone else, therefore you decided.
And his eyes are so slow when he closes them. It's so exaggerated. So I don't know if this is him shielding his eyes or if it's his attempt to be very, very calm. But obviously, there's a response there. I mean, we're seeing it, so it's meaningful in some way.
To get rid of this entanglement, namely your wife and your child. Or there was just an angry confrontation.
Neither of those was the case. It's that simple.
He insisted all was well between him and Laci.
Tell me about the state of.
It's that simple, everybody. 8.5-month pregnant wife. Anybody that knows, anybody that's been pregnant or has a wife at 8.5 months, they are evil. Yes, I said it. They are evil. And I understand hormones, bad hormones, cravings, and they just are like mad at you for no reason. There's no way he told her and she was just okay with it. I don't even think he told her.
Of your marriage. What kind of marriage was it?
God, I mean, the first word that comes to mind is, glorious. I mean, we took care of each other.
Good job at taking care of her, guy.
So
Oh,
I'm sure you caught
he
that.
caught himself.
She
Yep,
was
was.
amazing. She is amazing. He caught it very quickly, and he said it fast enough that maybe some people wouldn't notice. But saying she was amazing, he is talking about her in the past tense. Listen to this.
She was amazing. He is amazing.
Another story that is out there is that the kitchen was spotless.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there was still a wet mop around, which indicated somebody had cleaned something very recently.
She was mopping the floors when I left that morning.
Damn.
Yes,
He's
the
not
house
even a
was
good
spotless.
liar.
We had a cleaning lady on Monday, the 23rd.
So this is an area that's confident for him. You're seeing less of the eye closing. He likes this part of the story. He feels very good about this, probably because if things are spotless, then that means they didn't find anything. And he can just say, well, we're just very tidy people. We just clean a lot.
So if the cleaning lady had been there, why
is she
have to
mopping?
clean again?
Dogs,
Right?
cats, muddy backyard. She mopped those floors every day.
Yeah, look at the smirk. He feels very happy with himself about this answer because he believes this is a convincing response. I feel okay about that. People have to believe me, and there's no way to prove otherwise. Look at the smirk that emerges right here.
I'm going to stop for a second and say thank you all for still being here. I definitely did not plan on going for 2 hours, and we're still here together. I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're watching this with me because I haven't seen this yet. I saw the video when it happened, and immediately the police were after him right after this interview. It was on and popping.
Muddy backyard. She mopped those floors every day.
See, great excuse. So he feels like I'm three. When somebody has murdered someone else, they basically are going to have a mental checklist of all the things that are weak points for them. So no DNA evidence or the kitchen's clean. Check, and so he's going to feel really good about being able to provide something that he thinks is a comprehensive and coherent answer. Whereas earlier, when there's certain questions he's being asked that he doesn't like as much, like one about whether or not they're having conflict, you're going to see more of the eye closing. You're going to see more of him disliking what he's being asked.
And I emptied the bucket when I returned.
Go back to a couple of other questions people have. I've heard so many people say, Christmas Eve, you have a very pregnant wife, and you decide to go fishing?
Mm-hmm.
What did that say about the two of you?
Well, we had plans that evening with Mom, Laci's mom, over at her house. Frankly, Christmas preparation.
So you see the licking of the lips. What this probably says is that when this question got asked, adrenaline starts coursing a little bit. It's drying his mouth out a little bit. It's a very subtle thing to notice, and certainly people are capable of licking their lips. That doesn't always guarantee that they're lying. But when we see a change, I haven't seen him do that a lot throughout this interview. So when we see a change, we pay attention to it. So this question's one that maybe he feels less confident about than the spotless kitchen.
Her house. Frankly, Christmas preparations were done.
What did you got her for Christmas?
Oh, a Louis Vuitton wallet.
Oh, he was very confident about that. You notice, and I'm sure Dr. G is going to say something right now, but if you notice everything else that he's saying, he's been saying in a whispering voice like this, real low and no, and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I got her Louis Vuitton wallet, everybody. He was confident about that, but that's probably what he got for Amber Fry. And I wanted to say hello to Miranda Freights. All opinions are welcome here, and we're a friendly channel. So we appreciate debates, friendly debates. We appreciate opinions, and we can agree to disagree on this channel. And you're welcome to mention any other content creator that you know. Please tell me about them so I can go watch, follow, and subscribe to them, and ask them if it's okay for me to share their thoughts. And then hopefully one day I can co-create with them. All right, let's finish.
But preparations were made. Her plan for the day was to prepare gingerbread cookies My day was open to play golf or go fishing. I chose fishing that day, which is,
Easy way to dump a body.
Obviously,
Yeah.
right now, I could just decide to stay home. That's what would have happened.
And once again, the slight smirk emerges as he talks about some of these things. I don't know if he feels like he's performing well necessarily, but he feels pretty good about something as this is continuing to go on. Maybe he feels like he's getting out of the danger zone.
You haven't mentioned your son.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. Once again, and he's referring to things in the past tense himself. That's the second time he's done that. Listen to this again.
It's so hard.
Their baby boy was due on February 16th.
Tell me about the nursery.
Can't go in there. The doors.
Oh, now he's
closed.
crying.
Someone to put in there.
And maybe it's just me, but his level of calmness is annoying me. And maybe that's just my own personal reaction, but he has zero passion about any of this stuff. So for someone who is trying to find their wife, obviously we're seeing what appears to be, maybe he's been crying or maybe he's trying to at this point, but we're seeing him maintain such a sense of reservation and being so subdued. To me, it's almost frustrating to watch.
It's ready.
He's done with this. His face is red.
Are
He
you
looks like he's
afraid
gonna
police
cry.
will arrest you?
No.
You should be.
I know there's no basis. I mean, I had nothing.
So right now we are seeing a tear run down his face, but we have yet to see any face that actually shows sadness. Sometimes we see faces with no tears. Now we're seeing tears with no demonstration whatsoever that he's actually feeling or experiencing sadness in any real way.
Thing to do with their disappearance. So there's no possible evidence or anything like that.
So this is basically the end of the interview. Hopefully watching this gives you a basis for better understanding how to observe people like Scott Peterson. When people have acted in such psychopathic ways and have committed such atrocious and heinous crimes.
Agreed, Dr. G. And I always love your opinion. I appreciate that. But I'm going to have to take over this and give my opinion on him. And I do agree. I always agree with what you're saying. And I love your channel. And that was awesome that I could actually break that down, listen to you, give my comments, and still not get pulled down. Because when I go back and I talk about something that I want to show that I saw when I was, Carly, we're about the same age. I was about 21 there, maybe 22. I think I'm a little bit older. I'm 44 now. So, when I saw this on TV and I saw the courts, now Modesto is a pretty small town. So you can, when you drive down the street, the courts are like right downtown mixed in with the hotels and the bars. So at the time we did have Scott Peterson supporters. I'll tell you that. There was people out there saying free Scott Peterson. And then there was the ones that were totally against it. Of course, the people that were ready to see him go on death row and be fried or whatever they don't do anymore. They just say they do. Those people were inside the courthouse wanting to watch the trial. The other people were just outside, free Scott. And I think most of it was a lot of his friends and family. He did have a big following and a lot of supporters. And that's what brings us to today. And that's what brings us to today, really. He honestly had a huge following, and those are the people that still are following him. And now the LA Innocence Project has picked it up. Oh, really? That's interesting. Has a very similar tone when he talks. Is that, I don't know if I can even say alexithymia. Alexithymia. Well, I know what you're talking about. I might not be able to say it, but I know what you're saying. In as far as demeanor goes. That's interesting. But I want to tell you what, Scott Peterson was not like that at all. When they showed the trial, he was very confident. Also, when he talked to Amber Fry, she recorded all the phone calls. Do you remember? She actually did. She went to the police and told on him, and then she started recording all phone calls. And he lied to her through his teeth. He was at a vigil for Laci and Connor on New Year's, and he told her that he was at the Eiffel Tower. He was like, "Oh, it must be a different time, everybody." Not everybody, because he didn't know they were listening, but it must be a different time over here. It's really loud. I'm sorry. I'm at the Eiffel Tower right now. And he was very vicarious and confident and complimentary. He did not have that personality whatsoever. So that went to show the personality of him on the interview, with that real calm, like Xanaxed out demeanor. It was almost like he took a bunch of Xanax and just went on there. He was like a zombie. But you know what is funny is that the news caught him on the vigil. So when the vigil was happening, he had a hat on and he was trying to be disguised at the vigil. And Amber Fry was able to see him at the vigil, that he was there, and then he was calling her at the same time, and they were recording the calls with him being at the Eiffel Tower. Thank you, Miranda. I'm glad you remember that. I love these cases that are older and like myself, that people remember them, because a lot of times my friends tend to be like 10, 15 years younger, because I have a 9-year-old, and when I talk about something like this, they don't even know what I'm talking about. They were like teenagers and they didn't care about true crime. So I appreciate that. Now, we went over the physical evidence before this. So if you want to go back and watch, you can. And this is a part 2. So on the part 1, I went over all of that. I think we did an hour and a half on the first one. This one, we're at 2 hours. So I can bring up the document real quick of the summary and just kind of show you just a little brief what he was convicted on, like what the evidence kind of was. But we did a much deeper dive into this. I've been on here for quite some time now. Let me take the banner off and just tell you. Now, the physical evidence now that they're coming back is the van. 99% of it, I'm trying to zoom in on it here, so give me a second. 99% of it is this guy right here. Is this van, this burnt out van that they found. That's the physical evidence. That's the DNA. There's a mattress in there that had blood, and they're testing that again because the DNA it wasn't as progressive as it was then as it is now. So they're trying to say that that is the evidence for a new trial, as well as the juror. One of the jurors said she didn't understand the paperwork that she filled out for him to go to death row. She thought she was just following the law. That's the evidence to bring to a new trial. But if you want to talk about the evidence that convicted him, oh boy, there's a lot of it right here. It says, and this is a brief synopsis. It says Peterson was arrested after inconsistencies in his alibi and behavior, which we just watched. But key evidence included his affair, which that shouldn't convict you, his behavior, and then following the disappearance, the fact that he was fishing in the area where Laci and Connor's body were washed up, and he went back to that place several times. They put a tracker on his car, and he drove back and forth to that bay where they found the body, and that's where he was the day that the day she went missing. He was out fishing in that bay, and that's not even a bay that you go fishing. So that was part of the evidence, and additional forensic evidence such as hair. And he also made cement blocks. So they found cement residue linked to the crime. He made the cement blocks in his garage using those Home Depot. And they found that with the body because he used it to weigh down the body, but the body washed up. If you go to the bay the Bay, San Francisco Bay Shore. It's not a calm place that you would go chill out. It's very like rapid and fast and windy. So they got hair evidence, they got cement evidence, cement residue at his house linked to the bodies, obviously, and where he was, and then his affair, his behavior. And, it was a long trial. So he got convicted of first degree murder, not only for Laci, but he got second degree murder for Connor. So I think there was a lot of evidence if you go back and go back to the first episode, and then this is part 2. So I get into that, and there's only 2 key pieces here, and I don't even need to look at anything, Miranda. The 2 pieces that are going to bring back this trial possibly are the burnt out van, because it has blood inside of it on a mattress, and the juror that didn't know what she was signing for the death penalty case. So with those 2 things, after all the hearings and what's said and done, guess what? I think I am Bear. Is it I am too Bear? I think you're right. I think they probably will end up with a new trial, just those 2 things. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, everybody. Those are my thoughts. I live in California, and I don't want to waste my tax paying money on this trial, but bring it on, because it's really close. He's in San Mateo right now. They moved him from one of the roughest prisons in America, where he what did I had that my documents. He was in it wasn't Rikers Island. I can't remember, but they moved him to San Mateo, and I said that previously, y'all. Everybody, where he was, and they moved him to San Mateo, which is like an hour and 10 minutes from me. Actually, San Mateo is closer to me than Modesto. Modesto takes me about an hour and 45 minutes. So if they go to trial, bring it on. On my ending notes, did everybody get their, and you too, Miranda, there's a lot that goes towards the innocence. I agree. Those are the 2 key points, though. We just watched the hearing, and you could go back and watch the hearing, and those are the 2 things that they bring up. So if you want to keep watching, we have the hearings coming up, hearing on motion to seal, and that was decided with the hearing, and that was like 2 days ago, that this happened. Hearing on motion to seal, April 16th, 2024. Hearing on DNA testing motion, May 29th, 2024. And hearing on motion for discovery, July 15th, 2024. So that being said, that's what I'm talking about. Crazy bitch. I can't stand her. Yeah, let's see. I want to hear it. I can't imagine them going on old trial again. If anything got to the point, I would think they would offer a plea. You know what? He's not going to do a plea, because he was completely convicted by 12 jurors on both counts to the death penalty. So they won't do that's not even on the table. Well, we'll see. I guess I thought you said a plea deal, but you said an Alford plea. I don't think he's going to do that. After watching him and seeing his reaction, he is so confident in himself that he'll go through another trial to get off and be exonerated and freed. I think he would take that gamble, you guys. But you know what? You could be right. I don't know enough about Alford pleas, but with all the hearings scheduled, I think the prosecution is like, bring it on, Innocence Project and your lawyers, bring it on. Let's go. I don't think they're going to do that. I think and we're still at speculation here. If they have a whole entire new trial, it's going to be a whole entire new trial. It's going to be start to finish. They're going to get Amber Fry back in there, and any other witnesses that are still alive, because there were some old neighbors and so forth. It's going to be a full-blown rock'em sock'em trial, everybody. So that's the question of the night. Is there going to be a new trial? You saw the evidence, Miranda. You and I am too Bear think that, and I'm sure a lot of other people think they probably will. Yeah, I mean, they're putting a lot into this and they have all these hearings scheduled. Why wouldn't they have a new trial, right? But we don't know yet. So that's just my speculation and my final thoughts. If you guys caught this later on in the night, please go back and watch part 1 first and then go back and watch the second part. I should probably label it because I get all excited, but part 1, this is part 2, the new trial. The first one was just the summary of the Scott Peterson case and all the details of what happened. So, yeah, that one was a pretty long one. And yeah, I'm in California and I didn't, I didn't even think about an Alford plea. I am in California and it didn't even dawn on me that a man like Scott Peterson or the LA Innocence Project would do something like that with all the effort that they put into it for having a new trial. They want to go to trial and watch him walk out and say he did not do this. So that's why, yeah, you know what? Like I said, I'll always eat my words if that happens. What's the Innocence Project? Juror 13, you missed that. Yeah. And it depends on the evidence in the van, but they're also going to bring in the juror thing again too. So yeah, you're right. It does depend on the evidence in the van. But the Alford thing wouldn't have anything to do with that at all. Have anything to do with that. He would just say the prosecution would have to say to him, let's come to an agreement so we don't have to do all this. That DNA is enough evidence for me to just go ahead and give you a deal and you can walk out, your time served. We don't want to go through with this. Now, yeah, that's going to depend on the DNA. So if the DNA, let's speculate for a second, if the DNA in the van, the blood on the van, right, comes back and it's Laci Peterson's blood on that, Miranda, you're onto something. Maybe the state will say, oh shit, what happened? It was hers. We don't know who these guys are at all. But yeah, maybe. Yes. Art of deduction. Thank you. Yeah, let's do some criminal psychology together. Please subscribe and let's exchange some information here. I want to put my contact information here in case you guys, in case you don't have my email. Let me put that in there. But I'll go back real quick and tell you what the Innocence Project. It's different than it's the LA Innocence Project that is supporting him right now. It's not that there's an Innocence Project that's like worldwide, really known. This is just focused on Los Angeles. So it's much different, but I'll just quickly read for you what it is. You missed it at the beginning. guiltycrime@gmail.com. I'll put that down there. And let me go to what I read it earlier. Now I can't seem to find it. I do have it, but let's see. Where is my... I'm surprised more people don't know about the Innocence Project. Every once in a while, you guys, it will get people off. It will get someone off on something, but I'll just look up real quick. What is the LA Innocence Project? I have it on a document here, all written out. And for some reason, it's probably because I've been going for 2 hours or more that it is not finding it. So let's see. What is LA Innocence Project? Basically, what it is them trying to get people out of jail that were wrongfully convicted by using minute evidence that is based off of DNA. And let me put the banner across. Go ahead and show. And I'll tell you right now. I have an answer. A new trial would cause... Yeah, I agree. So I'm saying that too. Oh my God. Miranda, I do not want a new trial for a lot of reasons. One, I think he had a full trial, and I do want a new trial if the van shows that Laci's blood is in the back of that van. If Laci's blood is on that mattress, you know what? That would be fair. Honestly, if I was in jail or prison, if I was in prison and I didn't do it and I found a big piece of evidence like that, it doesn't even matter how much it costs. But I'm a taxpayer in California and taxes are huge. So Zap is still going guilty. LOL. Yeah. What is she still going? Oh, God. This one? I'm curious what you're talking about. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to just tell it. LA Innocence Project. What did it do? Earlier it told me. So, yeah, I would want to have a new trial if I didn't do it either. LA Innocence Project. What is it? Is it? And it wouldn't matter how much it cost if that was the case. So I'm going to tell you really quickly. Thank you, Sadie. There's a few like that. I live in Massachusetts. So there's a new, okay. Yeah, so that's there you go, Miranda. What it is there's one LA Innocence Project, and earlier there was a video that was explaining it, what the difference between the LA Innocence Project, which imagine like a giant thing that has mass funding and resources. That's the Innocence Project. The LA Innocence Project and the New England Innocence Project, completely separate entities. It's just like a smaller version, but it's not affiliated with it. They haven't joined forces. So the LA Innocence Project, I'm going to tell you really quickly, it's the Los Angeles Innocence Project, LAIP. It's an organization dedicated to exonerating wrongfully convicted, freeing the wrongfully incarcerated, and reforming the criminal legal system. I like that part, to prevent further injustice. Okay, I'm going to give you some key points really quickly since I already did this. Los Angeles Innocence Project, they exonerate individuals who have been wrongfully convicted. They provide pro bono investigatory services and legal representation and indigent individuals in Central and Southern California who assert claims of innocence. There's number 2, they uncover and address past misuse or forensic and other scientific evidence in courtrooms. So that's what they're doing there with the van. Number 4, they improve standards for the use of forensic and scientific evidence and legal proceedings. And the last one, 5th one, they advocate for criminal justice to be reformed on an overall so that this doesn't happen. So, yeah, I wish you would have got here sooner too, Miranda. And you know what? That's okay. I answered your questions, and I'm sure there's a few people that weren't on here. Juror 13 didn't hear what the LA Innocence Project was either, but you guys can go back and rewatch this. I've been here for 2:22 and 22 seconds. That's a lucky number, by the way, 222. So on that note, everybody, I love each and every one of you. Please get me into the algorithm, subscribe. You might not like the case, but you like seeing justice be performed and injustice is being undone. If that's the case, let justice be, like the LA Innocence Project. Let it happen. Let there be better DNA. Let people get out that should. Is Scott Peterson one person that should get out? And is he going to get a new trial? Now that's going to depend on all the court dates I already talked about. Everybody on your way out, if you haven't subscribed, hit that like button and hit all notifications so you can see my stuff coming up. Like it, share it, all that stuff. Go back and rewatch. I love you all. And I'm gonna stop sharing this so I can say properly goodbye to every single person in here and thank my moderator Carly for helping me out. I do need help in many ways. Thank you so much, everybody, and you have a good night. We are out of here.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App, or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty of crime?